Lucas Thorne, the CEO of Viridian Innovations, was on edge. The luxurious boardroom, usually a symbol of his control, now felt suffocating. Outside, the California sun blazed, but inside, a major problem threatened a $300 million deal that would directly impact the company's entire future. Across the table, three figures sat in silence: Sheikh Tariq Al-Hamad, his son Omar, and their advisor. Their expressions radiated impatience, a clear red flag in this high-stakes negotiation. "Where is he?" Lucas's voice was tense as he asked his executive assistant, Tessa Vance. Tessa, always impeccable, looked worried. He called in sick, Mr. Thorne. A sudden illness on his way here." Lucas slammed his hand on the table. "Sick? This is a multi-hundred-million-dollar deal. They were explicit. We must have a fluent Arabic interpreter, or there's no deal." He frantically made calls, contacting every translation agency in the city. Each rejection, each apology from an overbooked firm, chipped away at his composure. The Al-Hamad delegation exchanged glances, their silence only amplifying Lucas's anxiety. He felt his company, built on years of ambition, beginning to crumble. At the edge of the grand hall, Sophia Rain continued her cleaning. Her gray uniform helped her blend into the background. For over a year, she had worked in the Thorne building unnoticed. No one knew her full name, her history, or the thoughts inside her mind. But she heard everything. Every loud voice, every frantic phone call, every desperate plea. And she understood. Not just the words, but the subtext, the unspoken anxieties, and the cultural nuances that were threatening Lucas Thorne's deal. Sophia's hand, still smelling of cleaning solution, paused on the tabletop. Her gaze, usually downcast, now lifted, taking in the chaotic scene. A memory surfaced, the sound of many languages in a crowded marketplace, a loud explosion in the distance, and her father's warm hand pulling her through the crowd. Her father had been a linguist, a man who believed language was the key to understanding the world. He had taught her to communicate, and then he had disappeared, a casualty of political turmoil. She remembered the difficult journey, the silent nights, the constant fear, and the fragile presence of her younger sister Zara clinging to her. Zara, whose spirit had been broken, was now Sophia's sole purpose. Keeping her identity hidden was how she protected them. Stepping into the light meant facing scrutiny, questions, and possibly danger. But as she watched Lucas Thorne, a man whose arrogance she disliked, fall apart, something else stirred within her. A sense of responsibility, a voice from her father, urging her to help, to use her gift. Lucas kicked a chair. "Everything is falling apart," he roared. It was then, in that moment of despair, that Sophia spoke. Her voice, soft but clear, cut through the tension. "Sir, if you wish, I could try to interpret." Silence descended. Lucas's marketing assistant Chloe froze. Tessa Vance tried to suppress a scornful laugh. Lucas turned, confused. You interpret Arabic? You're the cleaning lady, aren't you?" His voice was filled with disbelief. Sophia met his gaze, her own steady. "Yes, sir. But I am also fluent in classical Arabic and several Gulf dialects. My father was a professor of linguistics in Khartoum." The Al-Hamad businessman, who had been impatient, now looked at Sophia with interest. Sheikh Tariq, the elder, murmured something in Arabic. Sophia replied instantly, her words flowing, flawless. The sheikh's stern expression softened, a slight smile touching his lips. He responded, his voice now warm. Lucas blinked. "Are you kidding me?" he muttered. Sophia looked directly at him. "No, Mr. Thorne, but you are missing a rare opportunity." He didn't reply. Pride and panic warred within him. His ego screamed at the audacity of a cleaner, but $300 million was more important. He swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on Sophia. He saw not a cleaner, but a solution. He nodded. "Then sit down. Make it count." Sophia walked to the empty chair beside the investors, a cleaning rag still clutched in her hand. Her first words, translating Sheikh Tariq's greetings, were seamless. Sophia interpreted with precision, her voice calm and steady. Not a single stumble, not a single pause, just a quiet control that spoke of humility. Mr. Al-Hamad says he appreciates the welcome, but if proper communication is not possible, he would prefer to postpone the meeting. She conveyed the underlying frustration with neutrality, her eyes transmitting the urgency to Lucas. Lucas stared at her. Tell him that won't be necessary. We're prepared to present now. Sophia relayed the message in graceful Arabic, adding a subtle inflection that transmitted Lucas's newfound confidence. Omar Al-Hamad, the younger son, replied in a soft but challenging tone. Sophia's response was just as seamless, adding context, softening potentially abrasive wording, and even correcting a small but critical error in their presentation materials, all without missing a beat. Lucas watched her, stunned. This was no longer a miracle. This was mastery. From the back of the room, Tessa Vance stood with her arms crossed, her eyes sharp, her annoyance growing with every compliment Sophia received in a language she couldn't understand. Did he really say that? Lucas whispered, leaning closer to Sophia. Yes, she replied. He likes the clarity of your proposal, but he's suggesting a change to the intellectual property clause. Lucas's eyes widened. You caught that, Sophia met his gaze. I understand more than you think, Mr. Thorne. There was something in his eyes then, respect, and perhaps a flicker of shame. The meeting found its rhythm. The tension dissolved. The once impatient investors now leaned forward, engaged. They smiled. Sheikh Tariq even offered Sophia a bottle of water, a gesture of respect. She politely declined. When the deal concluded 2 hours later, the men stood and shook Lucas's hand. Sophia translated one final sentence. They say they trust you, Mr. Thorne, thanks to Miss Rain. Lucas nodded, still processing the monumental shift that had just occurred. As the investors left, the room emptied. He remained seated, staring into space. Sophia gathered her notepad. The cleaning rag still lay beside it. Where did you learn to do that? He asked, his voice hoarse. Sophia just smiled. He said nothing. For the first time, Lucas Thorne, the man who always had an answer, was at a loss for words. In the shadows behind them, Tessa Vance was already reviewing footage from the kitchen security camera. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, her eyes glinting with a dangerous resolve. Her next move would not be a silent one. It would be a calculated strike, designed to reclaim her position and erase the memory of Sophia Rain from Viridian Innovations. The game had just begun. The house felt different the next morning. Sophia arrived early, her routine unchanged, but every eye that once glanced past her now lingered. At the top of the grand staircase, Tessa Vance was waiting. Good morning, Sophia, she said, her voice overly sweet. Good morning, Miss Vance, Sophia replied, her tone even. So, your little moment yesterday made quite an impression. It must feel good to be special for a day. Sophia offered a faint smile. Yes, Miss Vance. Sometimes one day is all it takes to change everything. Tessa's jaw clenched. She turned and walked away. That morning, Lucas Thorne summoned Sophia to his home office. The room, usually cold and clinical, now felt warmer, more relaxed. His tie was loosened, his eyes tired, but there was a new light in them. I've spoken with the Al-Hamad team, he began, gesturing for her to sit. They were incredibly impressed. They want you at the subsequent meetings, officially. Sophia raised an eyebrow. As what, an interpreter? Lucas shook his head. As the company's official international liaison officer, a full-time position at headquarters. Sophia paused, the weight of his words settling on her. The corporate world, the very place she had tried to avoid, was now opening its doors. And your team? She asked. Will they accept that? Lucas leaned back, a ghost of a smile on his lips. They may have to leave. Sophia looked at him. Do you trust me, Mr. Thorne, or are you just trying to save your deal? He was silent for a beat. Perhaps a bit of both, he admitted. But I saw something in you yesterday, Sophia, something I can't ignore. A mastery, a quiet strength. She considered this for a moment and gave a slow nod, accepting the new job. As Sophia walked back into the hallway, she no longer carried herself like a cleaner. She walked like a woman stepping into her rightful place. Upstairs, Tessa Vance's fingers flew across her laptop, a deliberately and viciously mistranslated contract in Arabic, about to blow everything up. She was setting a game in motion that no one could have anticipated. Monday morning at Viridian Innovations headquarters felt different. Not because of the signed deal, but because of her. Sophia Rain, now walking through those glass doors with a new ID badge. Sophia Rain, International Communications Coordinator. She was no longer invisible. It should have felt like a victory, but it felt dangerous. Every curious glance, every whispered comment, every probing look was a reminder of the precarity of her new position. On the 14th floor, the Al Hamad delegation was already seated for the second round of meetings. Lucas greeted them with his usual corporate formality. But as soon as Sophia entered the room, they all stood, their faces breaking into warm smiles. "Miss Rain," Sheikh Tariq said warmly in Arabic. "It is an honor to see you again." She returned the greeting gracefully. The meeting began. Sophia didn't just translate, she navigated. She modulated tones, softened potentially offensive phrasing, corrected cultural missteps, and bridged concepts no spreadsheet ever could. And with each instance, Lucas watched with something new in his eyes, humility and a growing admiration. Their working relationship deepened with each passing day. Lucas, once driven solely by profit and corporate conquest, now found himself engaged in deep discussions with Sophia. They didn't just talk about market strategies and projections, but about the ethics of global business, the importance of cultural sensitivity, and the responsibility that comes with immense power. Sophia, in turn, began to see past Lucas's polished exterior. She saw the immense pressure he was under, the weight of his family's legacy, and a burgeoning desire to use his influence for something more meaningful than just accumulating wealth. But not everyone was celebrating. In the copy room downstairs, Tessa Vance stared at a printed contract. She had meticulously inserted a clause, a small, ambiguous line about intellectual property rights that was subtly mistranslated into Arabic. It was easy to miss, designed to be caught by no one except a native speaker with a deep understanding of legal nuances. The clause, if it went undetected, would grant Viridian Innovations complete control over any patents developed on foreign soil, a direct violation of the verbally agreed-upon terms with the Al Hamad team, and a blatant contradiction of the English version of the contract. "Let's see how clever she really is," Tessa whispered to herself as she hit send on the email containing the revised draft. Upstairs, Sophia was scanning the draft Omar Al Hamad had handed her. Her brow furrowed. She stopped. Her fingertip traced over a line she hadn't seen before, a subtle deviation from the previous versions. Then she looked up, her gaze meeting Lucas's. "Mr. Al Hamad, with all due respect," she began, her voice calm but firm. "There is a critical error in this clause." Lucas leaned in. "What error, Sophia?" "This wording," she explained, "would grant Viridian Innovations complete control over patents developed on foreign soil. That violates the terms you verbally agreed to, Mr. Thorne, and it directly contradicts the English version of the contract." Lucas stood stunned. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I am positive," Sophia replied. "But if you let me correct it now, I can prevent this from becoming a disaster." The Al Hamad men were already whispering amongst themselves, their expressions shifting from polite interest to wary suspicion. Lucas gave a small, sharp nod. "Do it." Sophia turned to the investors and spoke clearly, passionately, honestly. She explained the typographical error, the intent, and the correction. She didn't just calm them. She won back their trust, cementing her position as an indispensable bridge between two cultures. When she finished, Sheikh Tariq placed his hand gently on the table and smiled. "Miss Rain does not work for him," he said. "He works because she is here," Lucas chuckled softly. Because it was true. Meanwhile, in her inbox, Tessa Vance received a reply. Subject: Internal review. Report to HR immediately. Her carefully laid trap had not only failed, but had turned back on her. 3 days later, the deal was officially signed, a landmark agreement that would launch Viridian Innovations into the Middle Eastern market with unprecedented strength and trust. Sophia Rain, the former cleaner, now walked the company's corridors of power with ease. No badge could measure her authority. The people who once looked down on her now turned to her, some smiling, some whispering, others staring with quiet resentment. But she was no longer invisible. She was a force. The ascent had begun, but Tessa Vance, fired and disgraced, would not forget. And Sophia knew that her past, and Tessa's malice, were bound to collide again. Sophia's firing of Tessa Vance sent shockwaves through Viridian Innovations. While many breathed a sigh of relief, others, particularly those who had benefited from Tessa's ruthless efficiency, eyed Sophia with suspicion. The corporate world, she quickly learned, was a labyrinth of unspoken alliances and subtle power plays. Lucas, however, remained steadfast. He publicly praised Sophia's integrity and strategic vision, making it clear that her position was non-negotiable. This unwavering support, while validating, also placed a target on Sophia's back, marking her as Lucas's favored asset and therefore vulnerable. The Al-Hamad Group, now fully committed to the joint venture, presented new, complex demands. Their vision extended beyond mere technological exchange. They sought a partnership that would foster innovation in their region, demanding significant investment in infrastructure and local talent development. These weren't just business proposals, they were cultural statements, requiring a delicate balance of negotiation and respect. Sophia found herself navigating a minefield of cultural sensitivities, political undercurrents, and the intricate dance of Arab diplomacy. She spent hours studying historical texts, consulting cultural experts, and engaging in deep, often challenging conversations with Sheikh Tariq and Omar. Lucas, though initially overwhelmed by the complexity, trusted Sophia implicitly, allowing her to lead these critical discussions. But the external pressure was just beginning. Tessa Vance, nursing a bruised ego and burning with a desire for revenge, was not idle. She leveraged her extensive network, built over years in the cutthroat tech industry, to dig into Sophia's past. She found whispers, fragmented reports, and carefully buried truths about Sophia's family fleeing political persecution. Tessa twisted the narrative, painting Sophia as a manipulative opportunist, a refugee who had exploited Lucas Thorne's desperation for personal gain. She leaked a sensationalized, distorted version of Sophia's story to a notorious tabloid, famous for its screaming headlines and disregard for the truth. The article landed like a bombshell. From cleaner to queenpin, the mysterious past of Viridian's new star. It hinted at shady political connections, questioned the legitimacy of Sophia's family history, and even suggested she could be an operative from a rival nation. The media frenzy was immediate and brutal. Paparazzi camped outside the corporate headquarters. Journalists hounded Sophia, shouting invasive questions about her father, her sister, and their escape. Every carefully constructed wall Sophia had built around her past, around Zara's fragile peace, began to crack. Sophia felt a familiar, cold dread creep into her heart. This was exactly what she had feared: the exposure, the scrutiny, the potential danger to Zara. Her sister, already prone to anxiety, became withdrawn, her eyes wide with fear as she saw Sophia's face plastered across newsstands and television screens. "They're talking about us, Sophia," Zara whispered one night, her voice trembling. "They're asking questions." Sophia held her sister close, her resolve hardening. She would not let Tessa destroy them. Not now, not ever. Lucas Thorne, however, proved to be an unexpected bulwark against the storm. He called an immediate press conference, standing beside Sophia, his presence a shield against the barrage of questions. "These allegations against Miss Rain are baseless and malicious," he declared, his voice firm, his gaze unwavering. "Miss Rain is an invaluable asset to Viridian Innovations, a woman of unimpeachable integrity and extraordinary talent. We stand by her, unconditionally." He went even further, a move that shocked the media and Sophia herself. He spoke of his own family's history, of his grandparents fleeing persecution in Eastern Europe, of the struggles they faced as immigrants building a new life. "My own family knows what it means to be judged by your past, not your potential," he said. "Sophia Rain represents the very best of what this company, and indeed this country, can be." His public defense, a deeply personal and vulnerable act for the usually private CEO, sent a clear message. Sophia was not alone. Beyond Lucas's public support, Sophia found unexpected allies within Viridian Innovations. A junior analyst named Ben, who had been quietly impressed by Sophia's sharp intellect in early strategy meetings, discreetly provided her with data on Tessa's past business dealings, hinting at a pattern of unethical behavior. A seasoned, older female executive named Eleanor, who had long been marginalized by Tessa, offered Sophia quiet counsel on navigating corporate politics and handling media attacks. Even some members of the Al-Hamad team, particularly Omar, offered discreet support, using their influence to quell negative reports in the Middle Eastern press and providing Sophia with insights into Tessa's network. Sophia, though shaken, refused to be broken. She leveraged the media attention to her advantage, turning the narrative. In a carefully orchestrated interview, she spoke not of her past as a victim, but of her journey as a survivor, of the strength she found in her heritage, and of her unwavering commitment to building bridges between cultures. She spoke of Zara, not as a burden, but as her inspiration, a reminder of the innocent lives affected by conflict and prejudice. Her honesty, quiet dignity, and undeniable intellect began to win over the public. Tessa's smear campaign, designed to isolate and destroy, had instead forged Sophia into a more resilient, more formidable force. The trial by fire had not consumed her. It had tempered her, preparing her for the final challenge that lay ahead. The final negotiation with the Al-Hamad Group was set. It was more than a business meeting. It was a trial, a battle of wills, and a defining moment for Sophia Rain. The stakes had never been higher. Tessa Vance's smear campaign, though largely neutralized, had left lingering doubts in some corners of the media and among a few cautious board members. The Al-Hamad Group, while supportive, had put forth increasingly complex demands, pushing the boundaries of the joint venture to include not just technological innovation, but significant social and cultural development initiatives within their region. It was a vision that resonated deeply with Sophia, but it required an immense financial commitment and a radical shift in corporate philosophy from Viridian Innovations. Sophia entered the grand boardroom, not in uniform, but in a tailored suit that exuded quiet authority. Lucas Thorne was at her side, his presence a silent testament to their partnership. The room was filled with power players, legal teams, and financial advisors from both sides. Sheikh Tariq and Omar Al-Hamad sat opposite them, their expressions unreadable. The negotiation began, a cascade of proposals and counterproposals, every word weighed, every nuance scrutinized. Sophia was no longer just an interpreter. She was a negotiator, a cultural ambassador, and a visionary strategist. She shifted seamlessly between English and Arabic, not merely conveying words, but bridging concepts, explaining cultural sensitivities, and finding common ground where none seemed to exist. She spoke of the shared human desire for progress, of the power of education to transform lives, and of the responsibility of global corporations to invest in the communities they touch. She presented a vision where technology served humanity, where innovation was a tool for empowerment, and where profit was intertwined with purpose. Lucas watched her, captivated. He saw the culmination of their journey, the woman who had made him question everything he thought he knew about business, about power, and about himself. He saw the future of Viridian Innovations, not as a cold, profit-driven machine, but as a force for good. Just as the final terms were being hammered out, a panicked intern burst into the room, clutching a tablet. "Mr. Thorne, a massive data breach at our R&D facility. It's huge. And the source appears to be an external attack, highly sophisticated." Lucas froze. A data breach of this magnitude could cripple the deal, send stock prices plummeting, and expose Viridian's most valuable intellectual property. He knew, instinctively, who was behind it. Tessa Vance, in one final desperate act of sabotage. Sophia, seeing the panic in Lucas's eyes, remained calm. She quickly translated the news for the Al-Hamad delegation, her voice steady, even as chaos threatened to erupt. Sheikh Tariq listened, his face grave. "This is a serious matter, Mr. Thorne," he said, his voice low. "It calls into question your operational security." "Indeed it does," Sophia interjected, her mind racing. "But it also highlights the very reason for our proposed joint venture. Imagine Sheikh Tariq, a joint, fortified research center, leveraging the best security protocols from both our organizations. This attack, as devastating as it is a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities we face alone and the strength we can build together." She turned to Lucas. "Mr. Thorne, what resources can we deploy immediately to contain this? And what steps can we take, right now, to assure our partners of our commitment to security?"